Today on our 2014 Ford Focus, we're going to be installing Roadmaster's EZ5 Base Plate, part number RM-524430-5. And this is what our base plate's going to look like when it's installed. As you can see, it's well hidden inside of our grille. You're really only going to see the safety chain loops sticking out. The rest of our attachment's going to be completely hidden behind the bumper. Your connection points are going to be recessed here, and when you're ready to use them, you can insert the pins here. They'll slide in, twist until it locks into place, and now you've got a place to hook up your tow bars to your vehicle. What's great about this is that they're removable, so you don't have to worry about walking by and hitting your leg on it. When you're not using it, you can just pull the pin and take them right back out. Now we've got our tow bars connected. This base plate will hook up to any Roadmaster tow bars. If you want to hook it to Blue Ox or Demco tow bars, there are adapters available that you can pick up here on our website. You'll attach your tow bars to your base plate by sliding the pins through the holes and locking them in place through the tab here on the side. You'll hook your safety chains to the loops here. I recommend that you use the hook side for your vehicle to make for a quick disconnection. There's an attachment point located on your base plate for your breakaway switch, as well as two beams that come out that give you an attachment point for your 6-pole connector. We'll begin our installation by removing the push pins located here at the top. There's a total of 4. You can do this with a flat-bladed screwdriver or a trim panel remover tool. We'll begin by popping out the center, then going underneath, popping the entire pin out. We'll repeat that for each pin. You'll then find a Torx screw located just inside of your headlight. We're going to remove that with a T30 Torx socket. We'll do this on the other side as well. Now in the fender well, we're going to need to remove the plastic fasteners. There'll be a total of 3, 2 of which you can remove with a trim panel remover tool and a Phillips head screwdriver. That'll be these lower 2. The last one's up here. So we'll unscrew the center. And if it does it just like that, where it doesn't want to unscrew, you'll just have to pop it out with your trim panel remover. Then we'll remove the pin here that attaches the fascia to the fender well. Just pop out the center, then you can pop out the whole pin. We'll repeat that on the other side. Underneath, you'll find 10 T30 Torx screws that you'll need to remove that run all the way along your paneling there on the inside. We'll remove all of those. You'll now have 6 push pins located along the front outside edge of your bumper. You'll need to remove all those with your trim panel remover tool. These will work the same way, where you'll pop out the center in the middle and then pop the whole pin out. Now you can pull your undershield off and we'll set it aside. Next we'll remove our headlights by removing the 2 T30 Torx sockets located on each side. You'll find one here. Now we can remove our headlight assembly and we'll repeat that for the other headlight. There we go. Disconnect your electrical connector located here at the back. You'll pull back on the tab and then you can pull back on the entire connector. We'll now need to pop our hood release cable out of its handle bracket here. So just use your trim panel remover tool, just pry it up until you pop it out. Best to use a pair of needle nose to get this done. You can pull your cable out, get a little bit of extra slack, and then you can work it around and release it from the handle. We can now release our fender tabs by pulling outward. We'll do that on the other side as well. Now make sure you've got your fascia supported. You'll lift up on the tabs located here. You'll have one on each side, and that'll allow it to release. You can now come forward with it. If you have fog lights, you may need to disconnect those electrical connectors. Ours does not have fog lights, but if you did, they'd be located in that position. Now we'll set it aside where it won't get damaged. We'll now need to trim our air dam. I've already got it marked out here per our instructions. I'm just going to use a pair of tin snips to cut along the markings we made. We're going to do this on both sides. We'll repeat that on the other side. Now we'll also trim out the center pillar. Well, now we're going to take our bolts loose on our washer bottle. You'll have one located here in the front and one located back here behind our fender liner. You'll take those off with a 10mm socket. There'll be tabs located here and here. Just pop those up off the tabs and that'll allow it to move free. Now we're just gonna use a bungee cord to just support it for now. And now to give yourself a little bit more working room, you can pull the filler neck out. It just pulls right out of it. You can slide the top part of your washer bottle here out of its channel just by pushing back. And we're gonna turn it sideways. This will give us a lot more room to work with. We're just gonna wrap this on our bottle to hold it up. This way we don't have to disconnect any wiring or hoses that attach it. The frontmost mount for our washer bottle, located here, this is where we remove that 10mm bolt. We're gonna need to bend the tab downward. So we'll just use a pair of Channellocks, grab the tab, and begin bending it down. Now we'll remove our horns. Located underneath them here, you'll find a bolt. We're going to remove that with a 10mm socket. And we can just set those aside. We're now going to be using a 1.5-inch hole saw to make an access hole here in our frame. To start, we're going to use a pilot bit, just make a little hole here. And we're just using a 1/8-inch bit to do this. Then afterwards we'll switch to our 1.5-inch hole saw. Now if you don't have a hole saw, or if your hole saws are just kind of dull, this is a pretty thick, aggressive metal, a cutoff wheel will also work. I've gone ahead and marked out a square here where we're going to be cutting, because this is just an access hole so we can feed in our hardware. To help protect from corrosion, you can spray this with some clear coat. And that'll just help hold out moisture. We'll do that on both sides that we cut. We'll remove the wiring harness from the side of the frame. Just pop it out with your trim panel remover tool. And we can move that out of the way. Tuck it back here. You'll see your 3 holes in the frame here. You'll notice that the hole towards the rear of the vehicle has a small tab in front of it. If yours is just like this here, you'll need to make sure you drill that out so that way you can use the hole and slide your hardware through. We're using a 3/8 drill bit just to clean this up. And you want to make sure you do it on the other side as well. We'll prepare our hardware, a lock washer over one of your 3/8 bolts. We're going to put a little bit of red Loctite on it. And we're going to do that with all 3 bolts. That's going to go here. We'll line our bracket up, and we can slide our bolts through the hole, and that'll help hold it in place. Now we'll take the handle nuts that come in our kit. You want to bend those in a way that'll allow you to get it through the hole that we cut out. Go back to each bolt and thread it onto each bolt. I like to start with the rearmost bolt first. We'll repeat that for the other 2 bolts, and then we'll do the same process on the other side. We'll now use the larger 1/2-inch bolts, slide a 1/2-inch lock washer on it, and put some red Loctite on it. This is going to go up through the bottom of your bracket, into your frame, through a pre-existing hole. We'll then use the same access hole and the larger 1/2-inch handle nuts to go down into that hole and thread our nut into it. You are going to need to kind of bend your handle nut in a shape somewhat like this in order to slide along the bottom and line it up with your bolt. And then we'll repeat that same process on the other side. We'll now take our base plate crossbar. We're going to go underneath our brackets, line up the holes, slide through one of the 1/2-inch bolts, put some red Loctite on the bolt, slide on a lock washer, followed by a 1/2 inch nut. Once you get one started on each side, it'll hold itself up, making it easier to install the other bolt that you'll be placing in the other hole. We can now go back and tighten down our hardware. The 3/8 bolts that we put at the side, we'll tighten down with a 9/16 socket. And the furthest front bolt, you'll probably need to use a 9/16 wrench to tighten it down due to the way the bumper curves over it. And then we'll tighten down the larger 1/2 inch bolts using a 3/4 inch socket and wrench. Then torque all of your hardware to the specifications found in your instructions. Now we'll reinstall our horn. You'll want to pop the plastic tab out, located here on the horn bracket. Use your trim panel remover tool to kind of just get behind it, work that out of there. Then take a pair of Channellocks. We're gonna bend the bracket straight. This might be easier if you use a vise. If you don't have a vise, you could just use a pair of Channellocks or 2 pairs of pliers just to help bend this corner here straight. We'll then take the small bolt and Nylock nut that comes in the kit. We're gonna line up that hole with the hole in the side of our radiator support here. We're gonna take the bolt from the back side facing out. And thread the Nylock nut on the other side. Then you're going to tighten it down using a 7/16 wrench and socket. Then if you need to, you can just kind of tweak your horn bracket a little bit if it's rubbing or hitting on anything. Just kind of move those to where everything's lining up nicely. Then reinstall your washer bottle. We'll then take our flat washer, place it on our nut, slide it through our washer bottle. This is going through the side of our passenger side bracket for our base plate, since we bent the original mounting location for the front out of the way. And on the other side, we're going to place a lock washer and a nut. We'll now tighten down that bolt and nut using a 9/16 socket and wrench. And you can reinstall the factory 10mm head bolt in the back and tighten it down as well. Now you can go back and cut off the ends of all your handle nuts so that way they're nice and flush. Just use a pair of side cutters, and I like to kind of wiggle it back and forth. Makes it easier to cut it through. Now we need to trim our fascia to make room for our base plate safety chain loops and the tow bar connection point. Gone ahead and marked out the area that we're going to need to trim. We're going to use a cutoff wheel to do so. Once you've cut out your hole, you can then go back with a file or a razor knife and clean up all the rough edges. And that completes our installation of Roadmaster's EZ5 Base Plate on our 2014 Ford Focus.